Well, that was Janice Long, and the Manic Street Preachers' James Dean Bradfield appeared on her show and joins me now. Good morning, James.
Good morning.
She was, an icon and a broadcasting legend. She'll be hugely missed. I mean, when did you first come across Janice?
I first started listening to Janice's program in 1984. I was 15 and I was just starting to discover what you would call more kind of alternative bands like Southern Death Cult, the Waterboys, Echo and the Bunnymen, Mighty War, the Associates. Her show was in the evening and she was covering bands like that. And she became my favorite DJ. I was 15 and I was discovering that kind of music that was only covered in the NME. And she was doing the show that handed into John Peel's show. She became I thought I was growing up enough to have my first kind of favorite kind of DJ, and she was it. And it was about her, the way she broadcasted, and it was about the kind of music that she was discovering, and I was discovering in turn. It was on Radio 1 in 1984. That was a great show, and she used to hand over to John Peel, and that was cool. They always had good, banter going on between them in the handover. But her show was like the gateway into that kind of music. It was a bit warmer. It felt a little bit less elitist. It felt as if that you'd been invited to like that kind of music.
Did you feel like your own career and the career of the Manics, benefited from Janice taking an interest in you guys?
She was definitely always there for us. That's the thing I was thinking yesterday, this quite startling. I started listening to her in 1984, like I said. She had that show for about 3 or 4 years, and I listened to it all the time. And then I started meeting her when the Manics started having some success. You'd finish a gig and then you'd pop into a show in Birmingham. So you'd come off stage and you'd think you'd put a good day's work in, and she'd be starting work at that show in Birmingham. She'd be in the same studio as the Archers. You'd see her on Top of the Pops when you were a kid. Then I was listening to a radio show, felt as if, I had a personal relationship with that broadcast. I felt like she was broadcasting to me. Then I started meeting her on that show, that late night show in Birmingham. And then, she came to Radio Wales, and we started doing some interviews and some shows when she was here in Wales. I'd see her out in London. I remember in 2012, she was still trying to discover new bands then. I bumped into her at a gig in London, and the band were called Stealing Sheep. And she was out at 10 o'clock at night, kind of watching new bands even then. And that's what really, more than anything, she's intertwined with our career, but what really is quite startling is people talk about her as if she was warm. People talk about her as if she was really personable, but also she had staying power. She's a tough cookie. She was broadcasting right up until the end. 10 years ago, she was still out there trying to discover new bands at 10 o'clock at night, on a damp Tuesday evening, along with other people. That's staying power. That's being real. Quite tough.
That's proper longevity, isn't it? And
it is.
And you obviously met her and spoke with her plenty of times. What was she like as a person? Was she particularly different to how she is on air, or was she very much one and the same?
Very much one and the same. I think I'm not going to say anything different. I think she's very warm, very open, kind of quite a strong sense of humour. I had to be careful, otherwise she'd get you down. But I gotta say, because she was like my first kind of DJ, because I felt as if I was getting old enough to make such choices. Because of that, whenever I met her, she was still famous to me. She came from the 80s. She was 1984. She was Live Aid. She had that show, and I listened to it all the time. And she was on Top of the Pops. She was famous to me. So she was warm. She was engaging. She had a great sense of humor, but also it was a proper kind of proper 80s generation famous star for me.
Yeah, a true icon and a broadcasting legend. Thank you very much for your time this morning, James. That's James Dean Bradfield from the Manic Street Preachers.